scene is set in John Stanhope's apartment block within Nobility Hill. His new domain is coming along nicely. First Founding Security are starting to install the cameras, the movement-sensitive lights. The patrols are beginning to hash out their routine, and the neighborhood watch scheme is slowly underway, although it'll take a few weeks before John can go around the whole area. It is a solid start. John, in his small office within the living quarters of his apartment, goes through some paperwork trying to deal with all the new finances and acquisitions that he's got made hold of, when his retainer, Jeffrey, walks into the door. "Sir, there is a call for you on line 2. John picks up the phone. "Yes?" I see. "And since when was this?" "Uh-huh. Okay, thank you for telling me." John steeples his fingers and starts to furrow his brow. It appears that many of Miss Breckenridge's ghouls haven't seen her in a few days. John makes some inquiries into her assets, calling her various businesses and agents that she has given, as well as a few of her contacts. And there is no answer. No one has seen Miss Breckenridge in quite some time. He recalls a news article a few weeks ago that one of her apartment buildings in the projects caught fire. John at the time dismissed it as anarchs and had a wry smile to himself that Iris was messing with the wrong crowd. But now he worries that the foolish venturer has got herself into more trouble, and John is honor bound to make sure that no harm has befallen his clansmen. He sends an email out towards the other Ventrue, as well as a few acquaintances of his own, those that keep an ear to the ground to see if anyone has seen Miss Breckenridge. He emails Darkstone on the Harpy secure line. If the Harpies don't know, then there's really some trouble. Not receiving any confirmation back, John fears the worst, and so dials the number that he has been given to call the sheriff.
An unrecognized voice picks up the phone. It sounds like a young male, could be in his late teens, early 20s. Sounds very hipster when he talks, very hipsters-like. You'd also pick up that he's also very geeky. Marty Wright's phone.
Hello there, I'd like to speak to Mr. Broodmore, please.
Oh, who is calling?
You can say that it is Mr. Stanhope.
Alrighty. Marcus grabbing the phone, looking at it. This bizarre thing. Again with these technologies, as you hear him rambling over the phone. Hello?
Good evening, Marcus. How are we?
Great, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. It appears that you've left your coat at my apartment. I was wondering if you would like to swing by and pick it up.
Ah, yes, I was looking for that. So I'll be right over. Where is your your location. We'll have Marty figure out where to go.
If you head to, he gives a veritable address of the apartment block.
See Marcus relaying the address to his retainer. So we'll be over shortly. As he looks over the phone, and he's kind of got it held away from his face, as he can hear you through a speaker, and doesn't really get where the sound is coming from. As he looks over it. So he hands the phone back over to Marty, and they begin their journey over to Stanshope's new digs.
As you drive into Nobility Hill, obviously this is unknown to Mr. Broodmore that John's been here for quite some time, but it's never truly been his. But you can see that his hand is already at work. There are plenty of work crews along every sign, post, and intersection within this section of Nobility Hill, which is the upper class, or at least nouveau riche style buildings in a small suburb, large apartment blocks, and luxury lodgings and hotels, beautifully trimmed gardens. And as you drive up the gravel car park towards a vast apartment complex that seems more like a historical hotel than a place that anyone actually lives, a gentleman in a drab grey suit awaits and opens the door for you. Mr. Broodmore. I'm afraid I can't hear you, Mr. Broodmore. The infernal traffic is drowning you out.
Shit. Again. Damn it. Well, that's always fun. As Marcus steps out of the vehicle, he nods to the man opening the door as he takes in the architecture, and he appreciates its historic roots. Doesn't quite like the new updates that may be installed within its facilities, but he does appreciate it. He looks almost in amazement as he snaps back.
The old retainer leads you through the apartment block into a large foyer. There is a rather portly and seemingly bored security guard on the desk. Leads through into the back room, up a single flight of stairs towards an apartment door. The door is already open, for which you enter a rather minimalistic, very modern design, but still keeping that old English sensibility. Lots of wood panels and dark marble surfaces. A screen of a fire mounts on the side of the wall, and two crystal glasses sitting upon the onyx coffee table. John Stansope isn't in his usual business suit, but actually a fine silk smoking jacket. And he's holding a whiskey tumbler with red liquid within it. He doesn't smile when Broodmore comes in. He simply nods.
Marcus returns the gesture as he walks in and examines the room. Yes, I'm sure leaving my jacket wasn't the only thing that had you contact me, Mr. Stansope, or Primogen Stansope.
Apologies for the deception, Mr. Broodmore, but after dealing with the Nosferatu quite a bit, I never like to say the full details of our business while on the telephone. I assumed you would be astute enough to realize the message.
Marcus looking confused.
I'm afraid I have some rather serious business to talk to you about, Mr. Broodmore.
Z gestures his hand to one of the seats, and Z implies that he wants to sit. May I?
Yeah, of course. Sorry, I forget myself. Have you dined?
Yes, I have. Thank you.
John sits down, places the glass down on the table, and holds his hands. His demeanor is a little different than normal, and as he begins his tirade, you could probably do a perception empathy to sort of get his mood. He's not as stoic or hiding it as much as he is, whether it's because he's relaxed, because he's in his own home, or something else is on his mind. He's not sure. It seems that Miss Breckenridge has gone missing.
Odd. About how long?
To be honest, I've only just realized retainers and ghouls have started to clamour that their master has not returned and has been keeping an odd schedule. That combined with the fact that she does not pick up her private line and the fire that happened within the projects a few nights ago indicate that she might have come to some foul play.
I'm assuming she has more than one haven.
That is my first thought. When the apartment blocks went up, I simply assumed it was anarch trouble or nothing, or a little bit of mischief caused by some of her enemies, but it is not like Miss Breckenridge not to report in.
So this isn't normal.
Not normal behaviour at all. She has her stints of sulking in the corner, but when the clan calls, she responds. And the fact that even her most trusted ghouls are starting to clamour and bite at the chop.
This may come as a shock to you, Primogen Stansope. There has been a vile creature lurking within this city. And I would like to keep this under wraps, at least for now. This vile creature had dispatched of one of our very own elders, Joshua Deep. Fought valiantly against this beast of a brute.
Just going to roll my manipulation and subterfuge. Well, it's not smooth talker, so I don't get my specialty. 3 successes. John hides it well, but you can see that this news actually, well, depending on what you roll, but this news hits him quite hard.
You're rolling to mask your emotions. Is that what you're doing? Alright. I don't have heightened senses on, so I'm not even going to worry about that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yes, John is.
Marcus wouldn't notice, I don't think.
Mm-hmm. Deep is gone.
Unfortunately, some diabolical brute. Never heard of it in all my research. A collaboration of several beings combining into one.
No matter how much we fight them, the Sabbat seem to find new ways to sicken us.
Unfortunately, Deep being the humanitarian of us all, I would say, got the better of him. But he did happen to save several of us other kindred.
A great pity. There are very few kindred that keep up the philosopher tone of the Via Humanitas. He was a light to many of those who had lost the path within the darkness. His loss will be felt very deeply within the city.
To not cause wide panic, I'd ask the others that were there to keep this to themselves, at least for now. The new prince coming up, I'm sure, doesn't need to be any more problems than what there already are. Now this creature may have found Miss Breckenridge. This thing could have definitely caused an explosion in Chinatown, which investigated, but not too much in terms of who saw what. It was just dark.
I don't know. It seems very out of character. Do you know of anything that might have pushed Iris to do something rash? Unfortunately, she doesn't keep counsel with me. I know she was very distraught over this Alex situation and Red's death.
She did take a significant loss with her sire and broodmate, I suppose you would call it.
She does have a tendency to do something rash when she is in that state. You don't think that she was foolish enough to invite this trouble?
Personally, I have only met Iris Breckenridge only a few times, not enough to get a real gauge of her personality. She seems very welcoming to most, so I would assume maybe.
Perhaps. So, is the beast dead?
Yes. The remains, there were none.
How many more Sabbat have been spotted within the city? I know of Apollo.
As far as Apollo and this creature from last night, that is it.
One more. Have your hounds had any success in pinpointing his location?
This Apollo you speak of?
Mm-hmm.
No. Something devious about this creature.
Must be some way. We cannot allow this maniac to continue.
This thing is very old. Estimated about 900 years old.
900 years old.
Close to it. Between 8 and 9.
We're deep gone. I think our chances of actually subduing this thing. How deep are we in? Is it worth us speaking to the peerage of the Camarilla? Try and get Mr. Bell, the Archon, to help us with this problem?
You know as well as I do, if an Archon comes here, it's not going to be good.
I think we need to weigh up the options. Do we want a insane Sabbat over 900 years roaming around, or do we want the scrutiny of an Archon? To be honest, I'm thinking at least that they still play by the rules, unlike the Sabbat.
As long as we keep keeping to the masquerade.
I don't know, we might calm the Anarchs down.
Yes. Leading this foul creature to their dwellings.
The hell was Deep doing at a Anarch concert?
Marcus shakes his head and begins chuckling. The powers of his obfuscate, he disguised himself as a guitarist. He was playing in the band.
Only Deep let go of his selfless nature and realized that his life is more important than to be thrown against the front lines so readily.
It seems these rabble-rousers are here to stay, at least for a while.
Any idea who leads them?
Was told this Gary Walsh, as Marcus heavily emphasizes, the unkillable Anarch.
Gary
So they
Wall.
call him.
Have you ever met the man?
I haven't met him.
I have.
The Ravnos speak very highly of him.
That's because the Ravenos will speak highly of a bucket of stool. Broadmoor. Gary is an unhinged sociopath. No, a sociopath will be given much credit. He is a beast. He thinks nothing of his actions at all. I remember back when Teflon Gary was but a lieutenant in the larger Anarch scheme, he would rumble up into a bar, insult everyone, start a fight, and then limp out. The fact that the Anarchs are being led by him is troublesome. He can't even think of how to tie his shoelaces, let alone leave. Expect trouble, and ones we can't expect, because there's no thought, there's no thinking behind it. It's just chaos for chaos's sake.
Yes. These Anarchs will make a great example of the unity of the Camarilla.
You remind me of Paige.
So I've been studying his work. It's quite fascinating.
He was a very singular kindred, and his fame in the Camarilla isn't overstated. He spent many a year within England when I was but a fledgling, and the terror that he brought through for that court is justified. I remember my sire receiving 5 flayed mortals under the suspicion that they were Sabbat sympathizers and retainers. We were called in to extract their information. There was very little need for us. They were willing to say anything to get away from Paige.
Seems like he knew his way around the mind. Or at least decent interrogation tactics.
Yes, there's always a little bit of professional envy that I never get to sit in on any of your sessions. The Tremere must have such wonderful tricks. We must seem rather amateur to you.
Some of us, yes, do possess certain tricks. As Marcus goes from a smiling or half-cocked smile face to a more stone sturdy gaze.
So,
We have a very large problem on our hands, Primogen Stanhope.
I wish I could help you more, Mr. Broodmore, but with Iris missing, I am honor bound to gather the clan in a search for her. If that woman isn't dead, she'll wish she was, for wasting our time.
Do you have a list of her havens? I will have the hounds check them out frequently.
I have a list of her current associated assets, or those that she's told me about. She would be a complete fool to tell me her actual havens, but here is a list. I know she is quite close with, well, obviously Lysander and Mr. Crowley.
Yes. Do any of them know?
I haven't had a chance to speak to them yet. And something you might be interested in, she mentioned that she made a new contact of Gangrel persuasion. She wouldn't tell the clan who it was. She wanted to keep it very close to her chest. Myself and Lysander have a suspicion it might be a anarch called Flint, but we have no concrete evidence.
Yes, this anarch you were talking about. Crimes against the Camarilla.
Indeed.
Yes. I take it there's no photos of this Gangrel. Nothing within the records.
Unfortunately, this was my predecessor in the Master of Harpies turn, and the notes and files were very sparse back in those days. It was the reign of Wolf. No one had really taken the initiative.
Unfortunate.
It might have nothing related to it. It seems a little coincidental, Iris mentioning a Gangrel and suddenly this Flynn coming on my radar. And I don't believe in coincidences, Mr. Broodmore.
Yes, you see Marcus pull out his ledger and he starts jotting down some notes. Right. No, doesn't seem like coincidence at all. I would say it's safe to assume that she would at least have some type of retainers watching over her corpse during the day.
That would make sense, but sometimes one wishes privacy, I suppose.
Yes. Well, I'll make sure the hounds keep an eye out.
Thank you. If my clan digs up anything, then I will be sure to contact you. If you need the Venture's resources in helping tracking this Apollo, if you can narrow down a district in New Sarum, we can close in.
This isn't the time for a respectable kindred in the court to be mucking around.
No. So close to the Princess Elysium and his Central going walkabout doesn't look good.
Her apartments in the projects, is that listed in the list that you gave Marcus?
'Tis indeed.
All right.
One moment, I'll give you I'll actually tell you a list if you give me a 2 seconds. It would have changed. Cedar Crest Apartments. A decorated apartment building in the projects with a surprising amount of security inside. Carolina Gardens. Small order by florist. Torchwood Conglomerate. Milliford Investment Group. And Certibello Charity Foundation. None of these have claimed that she has proposed for work.
Right. Do you possess the power of presence, Mr. Stansope?
I dabble. What do you need?
The hell's that, what is that, ability that makes people come to you?
Alas, I am not a master.
Okay.
My sire had a legacy of standard discipline of dominate. And I
As Marcus ponders again, is Iris Breckenridge her true name?
as far as I'm aware,
I will conduct my investigation.
if you need anything, an item that's important to her, perhaps. I know that Paige was very particular on items that still had a resonance. I know Auspex works that way. I'm not sure about your magics. Feel free to go into the Black Orchid. I have packed a lot of her personal items into little boxes for her move.
A picture would help if you have one handy.
John gets up and goes to the door, has a few words with his retainer. If you give Jeffrey an hour, he can come back from the Black Orchid.
Yes. Let's tell him to drop it off at the Cobble House or the Chantry. It should be on his way, I believe, back to your dwellings here. I will see what I can find about Lady Breckenridge. Hopefully it's just her blowing off some steam.
Well, let's hope it's just some angst.
Marcus.
She won't be happy. She's pissing around with anarchs. I will not be happy.
In due time, Primogen Stansope. In due time. As Marcus stands. Any information I find, I will relay back to you. And I am assuming Lysander's Elysium will be within the next couple of days.
Indeed, there have been a few complications in the entertainment, but it won't be long.
Marcus, going over towards his coat where you may have left it in the room, picks up and puts it on. He straightens himself up. Mr. Stansope, have yourself a good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Birdmore.
Marcus doesn't wait for anyone to open the door. He just does it himself and takes his leave.
John sits back down onto the sofa, places a chin on his hand, and sighs. There's so much more important things to do, Iris, than look around for your sorry ass. Lindsay.